Who's introducing?
Urvi.
Would we alive?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Lean in India today is
Urvi,
very
just give a
exciting.
second. I think people are just joining in.
Okay, let's wait. All right, good to go.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Lean in India today is very excited to partner with Sipping Thoughts and BW Business World to bring you another interesting session on my life and lessons learned with our business leader, Anu Aga. This is our third session in the leadership series, a program that brings thought leaders from different walks of life to talk about their words of wisdom on varied topics. Our first two sessions, as you may be aware, have been with Apurva Purohit, President Jagran Group, and Vinita Bali, former MD, Britannia Industries. I am Urvi Juneja, Senior VP at 3D and Chapter Leader at Lean in India. So I'm going to touch on our partners, and let me start with Sipping Thoughts. Sipping Thoughts is a multi-platform media company co-founded by Sukirti Gupta and Meeta Gudgudia. It was set up keeping in mind real women, real thoughts, a no-judgment platform where they want to create a network of women for women. BW Business World, our next partner. BW Business World, a fortnightly magazine launched more than 3 decades ago, is among India's largest and most respected business magazines. BW team prides itself in spotting key trends in the economy and business. It has done this consistently over decades, whether it was spotting the rise of the IT sector in the 90s, the pharma and the telecom industry trend in the late 90s, or the social media, healthcare, and e-tailing revolution in the recent times. And now about Lean in India. Lean in India is the official national chapter for Lean in India. It's a community founded by Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg that empowers women to achieve their ambitions. Lean in India aims to contribute towards encouraging more women in leadership positions through peer circles, campaigns, collaborations, and events. Our aim is to increase representation of women in leadership roles by enabling women in the workforce. And about our speaker today, Anu Aga. In today's session, Padam Shri awardee Anu Aga, who was appointed the executive chair of Thermax Limited after the sudden death of her late husband in 1996, will share the lessons that she has learned from her life. In the mid-1990s, Anu Aga lost her husband, her mother-in-law, and her son in a span of just 14 months. She transformed herself with courage and uncommon sense from an HR leader to a chairman, uh, to a chairman. And Ms. Aga is known for having orchestrated the revival of Thermax and growing the company in both size and profits. Retirement finally gave her time to do what she really enjoyed, that is working towards helping the underprivileged. With this, it's my honor to hand over to Anu to start the session. Over to you.
Thank you for your kind words. And I would like to acknowledge and thank Sipping Thoughts, Lean In, and Business World for inviting me today. Let me begin by telling you a little bit about my background. I was born in an upper class family in Bombay to a Parsi family. I have two brothers who are older than me, and all through the growing up period, I heard my parents tell them that one day they would have to join the family business. But I was never given that message, and the message I got was that I would have to marry and have children. Though I was better than my brothers at studies, the constant message was to get married. Parsis in those days tended to be very westernized. And so my father sent me to a bilingual school, Gujarati and English. But my brothers and my cousins all went to English medium schools. My brothers were taught violin, whereas I was taught Indian dancing. My father was willing to experiment with his daughter, but not take any chances with his sons. Though my school was excellent, I felt small, and because my knowledge of English was not good and my self-worth was low. Today, I have realized that English is needed for our careers, but should never be linked to our self-esteem. Do we feel small if we don't know Chinese? After SSC, I went to St. Xavier's College and majored in economics and political science. After that, I went for my master's to Tata Institute of Social Work. And as per my message, I got married to a wonderful man called Rohinton soon after I passed out from TIS. Now, I would like to tell you about 3 most impactful and challenging events in my life and the lessons learned. My late husband, Rohinton, was a brilliant entrepreneur, and under his leadership, our company Thermax did extremely well. When he was in his late 40s, he had a massive heart attack, and a large part of his heart was damaged. We went to the UK for the bypass, and on the second day, he had a stroke. In spite of his brilliance, in that state, he could not recognize me, forgot his alphabets, forgot his everything, and was partially paralyzed. Dealing with the challenges, I learned 3 important lessons that has guided my life. Doctors had said that my husband would never fully recover. But with determination and grit, Rohinton relearned A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. And for months he would write that. His right hand was partially paralyzed and he had this much grip. We had a physiotherapist in London and he requested her to teach him to tie the shoelace. She said that he should first practice a big bow on his thigh, and after a month, he could perhaps tie the shoelace. Rohinton, with grit, practiced tying the whole night, and the next morning, he could tie the shoelace, which was an amazing thing. Doctors had said that Rohinton would never fully recover, but he was absolutely fine and took delegations abroad. And the lesson I learned was never give up and have faith in yourself, no matter what the experts say. Don't go by the opinion of the experts. Have faith in yourself. As parents, we give great importance to education and degrees, believing nobody can take our knowledge away. Rohinton had studied at prestigious universities like Cambridge and Harvard. His stroke was a humbling experience and taught me that a small blood clot can wipe away all our knowledge and intelligence. So the second important lesson was nothing in life is permanent, not even our intelligence or our knowledge. Soon after returning from the UK, well-wishers suggested that I take interest in the company. At that time, my kids were very young, and they said, as a family, we were vulnerable. Being a social worker, the only place where I thought I could enter was in HR, and I worked under a wonderful, nurturing boss. And when he wanted to resign, I took over as the head of HR. My firstborn daughter, Meher, had studied chemical engineering at Imperial College and had joined Thermax as a trainee engineer. She married a lovely man named Firoz, and he also joined our company. Thermax had acquired a small company in the UK which was not doing well. And we thought it would be a wonderful training ground if Mayor and Feroz were sent to England to turn it around. I promised my daughter that when she has her first kid, I come to England and be with her for 6 months. 4 years later, I kept my promise and I went to help her take care of my grandson. Rohinton was delighted to have me back after 6 months and drove from Pune to Mumbai to receive me at the airport. But he had a massive heart attack before he could reach the airport, and I was received by the news that my husband had passed away. 3 days after his death, the board decided that I should take over as the executive chairperson. I was not ready to assume this responsibility and kept devaluating myself, saying, I am not good at engineering, nor even interested, nor in finance. And how could I run an engineering company? I kept comparing myself with my husband and felt small and inadequate, and kept telling myself that the only reason the board had selected me was because the family owned 62% of the shares. The second challenge was I had a choice to wallow in self-pity and continue feeling helpless, or to have faith in myself and give out my best. A year before my husband had died, Thermax had gone public. A year after I took over as the executive chairperson, Indian economy went through a downturn and our 400 rupees share were quoted at rupees 36. I suggested to my senior male executives that we should engage a consultancy company, but they kept resisting it, saying it would cost us a bomb. And in the past, we've never gone by what the consultants say. I think the real reason was that males find it difficult to ask for help. It comes in the way of their macho image. I convinced the board to hire Boston Consultancy Group, and with their help, made radical changes. Thermax had diversified into many unrelated businesses, which added to our top line but eroded our bottom line. For example, we were one of the first companies to get into software, maybe before Wipro or Infosys, but did not know how to run it. The businesses, so we came out of many non-core businesses and had to ask people to leave us. My husband and I had always said that we would like to have people and have an employment generation business. And to ask people to leave was very, very painful. We brought in operational efficiency in the businesses in which we were. We reconstituted the entire board. And at that time, maybe we were the first company to do so. The earlier board had 9 executive directors and 4 independent directors. It's all right when the company is doing well, but when the company is not doing well, it's difficult for executive directors to sit on the board and evaluate their own performance. So we decided to reconstitute it. And the new board at that time had 4 independent directors, 3 family members, and our MD was the only executive board member. I stepped down as the executive chairperson, and I gave a choice to my daughter and son-in-law that they either remain in business and run businesses as they were doing, or join the board and leave the business. They were pretty upset with me for giving this choice, but today they value it. with support from my family, senior executives, and the well-wishers, Thermax turned around in 2002. I would like to believe that destiny also played a role, without which, however much we had tried, we would not have turned around. At the age of 61, I retired as the chair. Why did I retire when I had got used to this position? The media was giving me a little bit of attention. I felt that I come from an HR background and believe in succession planning. And I should do a good succession planning rather than the traumatic way in which I had to take over. I also felt while I had the energy, I would like to change gear and get into social work. And the third reason was a very personal ego reason. I had seen many men, especially men, holding on to that position till they were in their 80s, 85, and their family members were waiting, when will this Buddha old man get out of his chair? I didn't want to undignify myself. So I wanted to leave when I was wanted. So after I decided to retire, the board selected Mayor, and she is a much better candidate because, as I said, she's a chemical engineer, she has a feel for finance, and has imbibed our values. I also retired from our board when I turned 75 because for the independent directors, the retiring age is 75, and I thought the family also should follow the same rules. I decided to focus my time and resources for social work. My son Kurush, after being away for 8 years, having studied engineering and worked abroad, came to India and joined Thermax as a trainee engineer. Thank God he was with me when my husband expired. When Thermax was not doing well, we had lost an order in Bangalore. And my son said, we can't afford to lose a single order. So he took a service engineer and drove in a small Maruti to Bangalore, retrieved that order. But while coming back, both of them died in an accident. He was 25 years old, and it was 14 months after my husband's death. The pain I felt when my husband had died receded into insignificance compared to how I felt when my son died. He had his full life ahead of him. Again, I had a choice as I underwent my third challenge, to accept death and come to terms with it, or blame God for my son's death and turn bitter. Earlier, let me tell you how paranoid I was. If anyone spoke about death, I would want to touch wood. I was so paranoid that when we traveled on Bombay-Pune by highway in those days, if the word death was spoken, I would make my husband stop the car, find a tree, and go and touch it. Traveling today, I realize if I carried the entire forest with me, I cannot change my destiny. I had heard about Vipassana for years, and Roynton would teasingly tell me he would love to see me quiet for 10 days. I don't know how many of you have been for Vipassana, but it's a program for 10 days where you cannot speak, you cannot read, you cannot be distracted from the outside world. Hence, you turn inwards and find answers and strength from within. I understood that whether you are a queen or a beggar, death will knock at your door. Let me also tell you that everyone attending this webinar whether you like it or not, will die. Are you going to touch wood? It is inevitable. The only thing we do not know is when, how, and where we will die. It is inevitable, unpredictable. And yet, all of us refer to death, which is inevitable, as a tragedy. The sun rises and sets each day. We have accepted this process. So do we call the sunset as a tragedy? Because we haven't accepted death as a natural process, we call it tragedy. To me, death is not a tragedy, but not getting along with the living who matter when they are alive is a tragedy. Another tragedy is when you do not continuously invest in yourself and you do not challenge yourself. I also realized that an apple tree cannot give oranges. I kept comparing myself with my husband, and I realized I can never be my husband. I have to give out my best and not try and be him. I came back from Vipassana very positive and full of energy. Daily, I practice Vipassana for 1 hour and have attended 4 programs. My son, who had studied and worked abroad, as I said, for 8 years, was very keen that substantial part of our earnings are given to social causes. I think we who live in India get used to and become insensitive to the plight of poor around us. And we need someone who has lived abroad for a long time to remind us. After his demise, I was looking for a credible NGO, and everyone suggested meeting Shaheen Mistry in Mumbai. She had started an NGO called Akanksha to help underprivileged students with their education. I was impressed by Shaheen and her work and brought Akanksha to Pune and financed it. I was invited by Shaheen to join the Akanksha board. 11 years later, Shaheen asked me to partner her to start a very exciting movement called Teach for India, based on Teach for America, and I readily agreed. I'm very lucky because my daughter Meher is also very passionate to help the cause of education and is active with both the NGOs and is the chair of Akanksha. A few years ago, the family decided that we will give, by way of philanthropy, 30% of our Thermax dividend. Over time, we would like to increase this to 50% and perhaps even more. Having retired, I spend a lot of my time with social causes. I like to travel in India and abroad, and also spend time with my family and friends. My daughter has nudged me to write my autobiography, but it has not progressed much in the last 8 years, and hope someday I'm able to finish it. I'd like to stop here.
Thank you so much. I had, listening to you was like watching a movie. It created emotion, This is my fifth webinar in the day. So I do it like, it's a job for me. I put my heart into it. But as I said, it brought some emotion while listening to you. So I can only salute you. But I want to ask you, what would be your autobiography called? Do you have a name for it?
I have not thought of it.
But let's say if you had to name it, what
do you
would
have a suggestion?
Okay, I'd come back to you with suggestion. I was thinking about it, but let me also ask you another question. We have a script, but I'm going off the script because
Sure,
I'd like to ask much more interesting questions. Yeah. And I have read the question. The first question is supposed to have got that you lost your husband and your son and mother-in-law in a short period of 14 months. You've already answered how you dealt with it, and you are resilience personified. And I love the fact that you said to you, what is the loss of opportunity is not to celebrate the people that are alive and live your life.
Correct,
Live it for
correct.
them and for yourself. I think it's a
Yeah,
very
I
powerful.
said, for me, death is not a tragedy. It's inevitable. But not getting along with the living who matter to you is a tragedy.
Yeah. And when you say that, it has meaning, it has, because you've traveled that road. It's not something that is foreign to you.
Correct.
But let me ask you this question. When you look back over the last 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, has the way our society, our culture, our business community looks at women leaders changed? Has it changed? What has changed and what has not changed?
Yeah. Let me be honest. I didn't climb the corporate ladder as professionals have to. We
Sure.
own 62%, and that's why the board suggested that I take over. I suppose a little bit of my merit also counted, but I don't know. Anyway, so it's harder for professionals to manage. And even today, there are very few, in our own company, we have only 6% women. And we say that engineering is not a line that women take. But I think that's an excuse. I think my daughter and I are very keen to raise this number substantially. There are biases in people's mind against women, that they will get pregnant, they'll take maternity leave, all kinds of biases. But I must say, women also play their part. They do not, some of them, not all, do not take work seriously. And at least in the social work sector, I have seen after about 7-8 years, they take a break for a year or two saying, I'm tired of working. How many men can afford to say that? Or they may decide that because my husband earns well, I don't have to earn, so I don't want to work. They look upon work not as a self-expression, but only to earn a living. That's such very narrow meaning you are giving to work. So I think I think things have changed in the last 20 years. More women are entering workforce, but I don't think they are reaching the top.
Okay, Sukriti, you could
Yeah.
ask.
So, Anuji, you've also talked a lot about two emotions that also prevent women from growing: guilt and the lack of confidence. How can we actually overcome these emotions? And also, what you just stated, that this mindset that we have that says, okay, you know what, my husband is doing well enough, or I don't need to work and I can quit working now.
Mhm. You know, Sukriti, I think women love the feeling of guilt and they manufacture it. They literally manufacture it. I have seen women who work feel very guilty that they are not home looking after their children. And those who are at home and not working feel guilty that they are not out working. So either way, you can't win. They produce guilt. Another emotion women manufacture is anxiety. I remember when my children used to go out as teenagers and come late, I wouldn't be able to eat, I wouldn't be able to go to sleep, and I would think that's real love. See how caring I am as a mother. I can't sleep till they get back. But soon I realized I was a neurotic mother. That anxiety was not love. It was blackmailing them to come home on time. And as soon as I called it a neurotic behavior and not a loving behavior, that anxiety disappeared. I think partly the self-worth may be low because the messages they could have received in childhood. Going back to my own childhood, as I said, I was better than my brothers in education, but not once was I allowed to join the family business or talk about being a career woman. So if your messages continuously put you in a small, narrow box, you are not making use of your best potential. But I think that's no excuse not to change as adults. I think you can re-examine your script, your old messages, and decide to change. It's difficult, but it's possible. So I wouldn't empathize with women saying, I can't change now. Of course they can change.
But we constantly hear that, yes, even if I want to change, society or my conditions are not allowing me to change.
Oh, poor women. Men also have many difficulties. Whether they like it or not, they have to be breadwinners in our society. They have to do well. So each gender has as long as there are stereotypes, there will be pressure on each gender. And I don't think women can use society as an excuse not to liberate themselves. They owe it to themselves to reflect, maybe go for a meditation program because that helped me tremendously. But I can't say it's meant for everyone. But find and read books where people have found it very helpful to change. But challenge yourself and don't blame society.
Over to you, Anurag. That was very, very
No, by the way, there's lots of comments, and all of them are kind of thanking you for inspiring them. But there is a suggested title for your book, though I have kind of modified it. It says, I mean, this is a first cut: "Woman Who Defied Destiny." So
Defied destiny.
yes, destiny. But I would say woman who created. I like positive affirmation. Defied is, So I'll come back.
You know what I have against that title?
Yes.
I think let's not be arrogant and whatever we achieve, we think it's because of me. Destiny is also.
How beautiful. How beautiful.
So I do feel that with all my efforts, if I was not meant to, maybe I wouldn't have achieved whatever little I've achieved. So anyway, let's not debate about
Okay, we'll come back with a more positive. I want to ask you a question again. It's not the one we prepared. And please pardon me if I kind of asking you a little very sensitive question. You've been a member of parliament, you're in the National Advisory Council, you won a Padma Award, your company is doing well, your grandchildren are doing well, your daughter's really taken the company to new heights. So God was, I would say, God is kind. And sometimes we don't understand his kindness. But I would believe that God was a little unkind to you by taking away your husband and son. You think has in some way God compensated for it by making sure that you have you've been able to revive a company, been able to make a difference through Teach for India in many lives. You've seen your daughter blossom and stand on her own.
Yeah.
So do you feel in some way has God compensated for the loss? It can never compensate. But I just want to understand what you feel.
Yeah. You have said life has been unfair to me. I have never experienced my life as being unfair to me. I always look at the positive things. For example, I had 30 wonderful years with my husband in our marriage. And I've seen rotten marriages. I've seen people live, but what quality of life do they have with their husbands? So I had a wonderful life with my husband. My son, I spent 25 glorious years. We had very close relationship. It was going up and down. It wasn't on an even keel. He would tell me all his secrets. His friends are surprised that I know everything about his life. Of course, after the event, not before the event. But we were very, very close. And through this volatile relationship, I enjoyed him. He had a tremendous sense of humor. So God may have closed one window, but opened 5 for me. Another reason I find I have been able to accept death as inevitable. So I don't think God was unkind to me. He is going to be the same with everybody. And I've learned to accept that after the death of a dear one, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And suffering is when you keep asking, why did this happen to me? You know, why has no answer, and it keeps making you more and more miserable. So I never ask why. Just carry on with what is happening. So, and daily meditating, as I said, for an hour, definitely helps me to lead life with equanimity. I don't go through roller coasters when I'm very high and then very low, as I used to be doing before. Today, I'm more equanimous. I'm neither very up or very down. Of course, little ones go, but not very high. So I would say life has been very, very kind. I have good health. I have the fortunate position of having money, which gives me many choices. And I have a wonderful family and a few good friends. What more can I ask for? I would be too greedy if I asked for any more. Anything.
You know, I thought of a working title for your book, but it's
Yeah.
not original. I'm a quizzer, it'll keep going. You know, modern India's Mother Teresa.
Oh God, no.
I know it's
never.
not the perfect.
Oh God.
I am human. So it's like, you know, you've done social, but you know, I'm just thinking. It's not perfect, but whatever little I've achieved is because of books.
Let's
So I
not
will give
spend
you a
time
title.
because I'm not in tune with your titles.
That's
But you
okay.
know, you said,
This is on the fly. This is on
I
the
think
fly.
one thing which I was very disappointed was my stint in Parliament.
Okay.
I think I wasted 6 years. I saw the worst part of our country. And during my time, it adjourned almost every day. First for the Telangana issue, and I don't even remember what was the second issue. As a nominated member, I had very little time to speak. So though I went prepared, I couldn't make any difference. So that 6 years in my life, I could have dedicated to my social work, and I think that would have been much better.
Thank you, Sukriti and Urvi. I mean, I have lots of questions, and you can see the number of questions coming in the chat box and also in the Q&A. Sukriti?
Yes. So one Anu question I always have, we all pride ourselves. We've gone to all these fancy business schools and XYZ, and we feel that going to these business schools and getting that training is what really grooms us to be a professional. But what do you really think are the qualities that we need to run a business, whether it be in the financial sector or even in the social sector? Because you have created a system, from what I understand, that nurtures leaders, which your company still uses today. So they're still relying on what you have created.
No, you're giving me more credit than I deserve. My husband created this organization. It was an entrepreneurial organization where employees felt they owned the company without having shares because he gave them a lot of freedom. He was not an engineer. My father wasn't. My daughter is the first chairperson who is an engineer. So everyone had freedom. So I think your qualifications, your studying at good universities definitely gives you a lot of knowledge and self-confidence. But that's not enough. That's necessary, but not enough. I have never been to a business school, so I didn't, but I did have love and passion for my company. It was a legacy which was given to me by my father and husband, so I wouldn't let it down. I also think to be a leader, either in the social sector or as a business person, you need authenticity and transparency and generate trust. If you cannot have trust from all your stakeholders and not just your shareholders, you cannot be a good leader. Of course, you need competence, as I said, and that your knowledge helps. You create an environment where best talent gets attracted and you are able to retain it. And you don't feel threatened by people far smarter and knowledgeable than you are. One of the factors that helped me to manage was forever saying, I don't know, and help me. And I seek help from many, many people within the company and outside, and didn't feel that I was making myself vulnerable by saying, I don't know. And while I always say that a business cannot grow without, a business to survive has to grow and profit. But that cannot be the only reason why business is there. Because if you make profit and growth at any cost, it's no use surviving. So I think values are very, very critical for us in our company. And my husband used to say, profit is not just figures, but values. So I think these are some of the qualities I think you need to run a company or a social sector.
Beautifully said. Over to you, Anurag.
I mean, honestly, I wish, I want to tell you, a friend of mine, she told me about you. Either she was friendly with you or your daughter, Ishani Chattopadhyay. I don't know if it, Ishani Chattopadhyay.
I'm getting to be a senile woman and I forget very easily. So
No
I'm
problem.
sorry, I cannot.
You told me about it. I wish I had met you earlier. But I want to ask you one thing. I have a young daughter. She's 16. And I can see her, and my son is a little younger. He's 12. And I see my daughter as, she has no, she wrote an article last week in the Hindu on, gender neutrality and stuff like that.
She wrote.
But, we brought her, I don't think there's any difference between my daughter and son. And that's also because of my wife being very, very independent and strong and so on and so forth. Truly a modern person, modern woman. But if I want to ask you that sometimes do you think women themselves do not encourage other women enough? Whether it's their daughters, whether it's other managers, whether it's partners. So why to put all the blame on men?
Yeah. If you remember to Sukriti's question, I said, I don't blame society or men.
Yeah,
I would say, no, I don't. And it is true, mothers differentiate the way they bring up a daughter and a son, even today. I remember my mother-in-law, if in those days chicken was a luxury, and the best pieces were left for my husband and my son, never for my daughter or me. So this was, fortunately, my husband and I were very fair. And so she didn't pick up that she was no good, as I did in some ways, So the way we bring up our children and the kind of messages we give, it could be subtle. It may not be very overt, but as mothers, we have to be very aware what kind of messages we are giving to our daughters and our sons. And what kind of messages from society are women internalizing? Of course, some men also behave like very, very bad word. I don't want to use it, but they behave as if they know the best and they are the kings. And as women, we can put them in their place. We don't have to buy their opinion. It's up to us to put them in and if it happens to be your husband, it would be a little more difficult, but you should.
I just want to ask you this question that, last 4 months have been extraordinary. I mean, in a negative way, we can be positive. What has kept you going in the last 4 months? When you talk to your employees or people that you interact with, how have you guided them? And what is the message of hope you've given to them? I mean, your life is itself an example of resilience, your resilience personified. But what have you said to them that has made them more optimistic about the future?
Anurag, my employees don't ask me because I retired from the company. They ask
whatever,
my daughter.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
People do come to you informally for advice.
Yeah. As terrible as as COVID has been, it has opened my eyes and many people's eyes to the horrible way with the way we have treated migrant workers. So my daughter and I are very concerned about this issue, and we have got in touch with other business people, NGOs, And through Dasara, an organization called Dasara, we are meeting from time to time over Zoom and saying what we can do while the COVID is going on, and later also, because the life is terrible and we should be ashamed to be so insensitive to their plight. I have joined a history course offered by Ashoka, which is twice a week. I love it. And it has reading to do, assignments. Then many webinars I'm speaking, so a little bit of preparation for that. I haven't touched my autobiography because I feel when the world is going through so much turmoil, who the hell is interested in the life of a person called Anuada? So I haven't touched it and don't feel like touching it till things improve.
It's
So
time for
I think we owe it to ourselves and our society not to feel sorry for ourselves because we are so privileged. We have a roof over our head, we have our meals, and I have time to spend so much time with my family and my grandchildren. 4 months with my grandchildren is a luxury which I'm thoroughly enjoying. So let's all look at the positives. How can we help someone? It could be your domestic help. It could be, I hope all of us are paying the salaries of domestic help. That's the least we can do, even if they are not coming for work. So find out ways in which you can make yourself available to other people for some cause. Yeah.
Thank you so
And
much.
we-
Time for audience question
Questions,
after
yeah.
Sukriti's.
Yes.
So I just want to, there is one question which is about, are there any books that you would like to recommend to people who that can help them in their life, books that have inspired you? And I would add on to that, is there a bucket list you have? You achieved everything, led a successful company, left a good legacy of your daughter, running that, mentored her. You achieved a lot. Is there a bucket list that Anuada has?
What do you mean by bucket list?
Things that you want to do, you still haven't been doing, unfinished things on your...
Okay. Not really. It's not a longing or anything, but I do like spending time in London because we have a small apartment there. And that I haven't been able to do even before COVID because life has been pretty busy. And now I don't know when I'll be able to go. So I would love to spend a couple of months a year. I would like to get more involved with my NGOs, definitely. Not so much with individuals, our students. They're inspiring students. And spend more time with them. I learned so much from them. So there are many, but there's nothing really longing. As you said, I got what I want. I haven't achieved what, I don't think I've achieved great things, but I'm quite happy with my life and the way it has turned out. The way my daughter and her family are so caring towards me. I have such excellent friends. What more can I ask for? So I'm very happy. No bucket list, actually.
So Anu, we will now take an audience question. The first one from Gayatri. Gayatri, please go ahead. Gayatri, unmute yourself, please.
Okay, yeah. Hi, Anu. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for sharing the details of your life and your philosophies. You said one of the tragedies, the second tragedy you mentioned was not investing in yourself. And I was wondering, what are the ways in which you suggest that people should invest in themselves?
I also said investing and challenging yourself. Yeah. For example, we have many wrong beliefs which limit our life. For example, old people feel at my age, I cannot change, which is the best friends they've made when they were young. And with age, you cannot make good friends. Nonsense. Some of my very good friends have been friends in the last few years. So keep challenging yourself. I also believe in leading a disciplined life. I walk these days I do pranayama. So I think unless you are disciplined, you cannot be happy. It might be a little difficult to do every day what you want to, but it's worth it. Don't set out what you can't do, like your 1st January promises, but do what you want to do and keep. So I think invest in your relationships. Very often you don't get along maybe with your daughter or your son-in-law, and you feel very guilty the day they die. I wish I had said this to them. I wish I had not done this. Don't have that guilt trip. Do whatever you have to while people are alive. I had old aunt, and I went and met her very often because I loved her. And when she died, I had of course she was in her 90s. I miss her, but I don't feel, I wish I had done that, said that. I told her several times I love her. So finish your business with each relationship, which is important. You can't be doing that with the whole world. But select the people who matter in your life and invest in them. And for me, again, I'm repeating, meditation has helped me tremendously. I am a reactive and judgmental person, but far less today than what I was 20 years ago. So it's helping me to reflect and be aware of my shit. But the shit is not very, what should I say, smelly now. It's bearable. I can live with it.
So nice, so nice. Wow,
Thank
that the shit has to get better, huh? So we will
Less smelly, less
less
smelly. Let's put
smelly.
it that way. Yeah.
So Rita, let's
Because
start
let's
have your
not pretend that because you meditate, you've gone on a spiritual journey and you're holier than others. Nothing doing. Meditation is one form. There may be many other forms. Don't put up meditation on a pedestal and think you're on a spiritual journey.
So Rita, we'll take your question now. Go ahead.
Hi, Anu. It was
Hi.
really inspiring. I came in a little late, but nevertheless, I've heard so much about you and I've read so much about you. You've been a risk taker in life. Not a lot of us women are risk takers, and I'm not blaming society. It's just me. So, what is it that you would say to me to become a better risk taker, so then I can do something different from what? I mean, I have plans, but I'm not willing to take that risk. So how do I change that? Thank you.
How do you say I'm a risk taker? Give me an example.
Sarita?
Making
When you
that
say I'm a
change.
risk taker, which action of mine has shown you that I'm a risk taker?
So moving forward, moving ahead, moving on is a risk, right? Is something that not everybody would do, Anu, and that's something
What
that.
would you do? Kill yourself? You have to move on with time. What do you do?
True.
You have
True.
to,
I
and make the
agree.
best of it.
Yes,
So
but
unless
that
you want
was.
to torture yourself, you would like the best you can do. Of course, if I become senile suddenly, which I am already, but more, or if my health very badly fails me, I do take very good care of myself, but I am diabetic. So some things you have control over, some things you don't. And whatever you have control over, do whatever you want to. If I wouldn't say risk taker, I would say I'm willing to again invest in myself and do what I think will help me to be happier. Happier with peace within. Not happier means going to parties and buying designer clothes, not that form of external happiness, but have a good well-being and relationship with people. So I think each individual has different appetites for taking risks. You have to respect yours. But within that, I'm sure you can find many ways to make yourself very happy and fulfilled in life. And I would encourage you to do that. Okay?
Thank you. Maybelline, we'll take your question. Go
Thank you
ahead.
very much.
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much, Anu. Definitely a very inspiring story of dealing with challenges and staying so positive as you are. So I do have a combined questions. Hopefully you're able to answer and help us. What's your advice for women who would like to become board members? That's one of them. Why is there not enough women climbing up in the leadership roles? And also the last questions, what are some things that we can do to help improve equity through opportunity, but regardless of gender and background?
Yeah, I think the second question about women, I have already answered when Sukriti asked me that some of it is based on surroundings and environment, but some of it is depending on the women and how they can treat themselves differently. How can more women be board members? How can more men be board members? People would love to be board members, but do they realize what a responsibility and legal responsibility, especially today, it is to be a board member? I would never advise a woman or a man to be a board member unless they trust the company implicitly. Without that, you could get into solid trouble because a company may do something wrong and it's your responsibility as a board member. So just wanting to be on the board because it's a glamorous thing, I wouldn't advise people to do it, men or women. Huh? And the third thing was, how can you help everyone to come up? Are you saying? And their lives not determined by where they were born, by the ovarian chance. Yeah. I think it's so important that after so many years of independence, we have so many people who don't have the basics in life. They don't have health security, good education, they don't have job opportunity. It's terrible. Can each of us at least make a difference in the life of a couple of people? Make that a promise to yourself. You will reach out to a couple of people, and there are NGOs that will help you by your time. It doesn't have to be only money. It can be money, but it could be your time. It can be your investment, being a mentor, many ways. But please reach out to others who are less fortunate. In fact, you will become a more positive person because when you see people who are 10 times worse than you will realize how lucky you are in life.
Thank you
Oh,
so much.
that
So
was
lovely.
so, yeah. We'll take our last question. I'm sorry. I know there are lots of questions. I can see the list, but I'm going to take the last one from Vandana. Vandana, go ahead.
Hi, ma'am. It was really lovely listening to you. And your line about the shit is less smelly now.
Sorry?
The line which you spoke, which says your shit is less smelly now, is a line which I'm going to like carry with me forever and remember.
Yeah, but your shit should be less smelly, huh? Be sure your shit is less smelly.
Yes, I mean,
work on it.
we should all work towards that. What I wanted to ask you is, I have a very deep affection for Thermax because this was the first job my husband had. He was a mechanical engineer, and his first job was with Thermax. And in fact, his Thermax office and my college used to be across the road in Pune. So I have always a very fond feeling towards Thermax. And I still have saved his visiting card from Thermax. So even though he went on to, start his own business later, and similarly, under similar circumstances, I have also had to take care of the business now. So a long story short, ma'am, my question to you is that how are women different when they lead? So when they lead, when they're leaders, when they're running a company, what is it that they do differently? Because I, like you said, I'm always comparing myself to my husband. How would he do it? How would he take care of it? And I also, even now, I'm always feeling, okay, I'm not good enough for this chair. So this is something which is so constant. However, I feel that there must be something which women do differently. And so,
Yeah, because women like to pull themselves down and men love to be cocksure and arrogant. These are traits. These are not male traits and women traits, but society for years have groomed women and men differently. With the result, women are not sure of themselves. I find my granddaughter, who's as good as my grandson, still and has been brought up with the same messages, is still not very as confident as my grandson. My grandson is willing to do anything, and of course, he's the best in whatever he does. That's what he says. So it's a trait. I don't know whether it's nurtured or inborn. I don't know, but even if it's inborn, you can change it. And you don't have to be like your husband. You can be different. You have different qualities to offer. He may have had different qualities to offer. Can you find out what is your unique offering, which will be different, and focus on that rather than, as I said, trying to ask for oranges from an apple tree.
lovely.
You will never achieve that. So
Right.
don't do that. That's one thing, definitely.
Right, ma'am.
I wouldn't, people say women are softer. I wouldn't agree. My husband was much softer. I've taken one of the most difficult, tough decisions in our company, which I don't think he could have ever taken. So at least I haven't experienced myself. You can be very humane while taking tough decisions, but a leader can't shy away from tough decisions if they have to be taken.
Thank you
Oh,
so much for that, ma'am. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Thank you. And I apologize if we haven't been able to get to your question, but we, as always, run out of time. With that, I hand it over to you, Urvi.
Thanks. Thank you, Anu. You were just fabulous. Your story stirred some thoughts in everyone's mind, as you can see with the long list of questions. And your untiring attitude is surely an inspiration. Lots to take back. So, very beautiful session. Thank you for that. On
Thank
behalf
you.
of Lean in India and Sipping Thoughts and Business World, I wanted to extend our gratitude and appreciation for serving as a speaker today. And your willingness to share your time and expertise was certainly very valuable. And thank you, lovely audience, for joining us today and your time. We loved hosting you.
Thank you, Anu.
Thank you, Shukriti. It is you who invited me. Thank you.
We're so glad I did. I can see from all the messages, everybody is saying thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, it was a fabulous session. Loved hosting.
Thank you. Thank you.